You're listening to Edging the Truth.
Welcome to a new episode of a new podcast from us here at Edging the Truth. We're calling this one Two Steps from the Edge. My name is Dave.
My name's Andy.
And we're going to guinea pig this first episode for you. This will be a two-person episode in terms of the host, as opposed to our big foursome that we usually do on our big episodes. We're hoping to give you something in some smaller doses in the off weeks that we don't do our big episodes, and maybe test out some topics for kicking up to the next to the big show, as they say. Andy, we each brought something today. What did you bring today?
Well, Red, before we get into it, I just want to say it's really nice that we have finally dropped the dead weight, and we have the two better hosts together here. Mikey and Brian, we do love you. Can't wait to see what it looks like when you two have to do this one together.
Yes.
But anyway, so this is an idea that Red and I kind of came up with just as ways because, to just produce more content, get us some weekly stuff going and in a more bite-size form, I would say, maybe a little bit easier to listen to, going to be a little bit shorter, not as many people trying to get a word in, so I'm looking forward to it. But so I think we each brought a topic. What I brought, so it's kind of like maybe sometimes we're going to be going back to look at other topics we've already talked about and stuff we may have missed. Maybe we're going to bring some new stuff to the table. But today, two different topics for you guys. We're going to start it off. One of our very first episodes, I think our better episodes that we did, Red, was on Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And there's tons of stuff, that you can talk about when it comes to Bigfoot. But this is something that I ended up seeing months after the fact, after recording this episode. And it just made me think, maybe there's something there. Maybe there's something we missed that we need to go back to.
Yeah.
So this is what it was. It's a show on Netflix, Unsolved Mysteries. It's a classic show. I know, Red, you're a big fan of the show as well.
Yeah.
Super fun to just get a little stoned and kind of scroll through the library on Netflix and freak yourself out a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So this specific episode is about two Navajo Rangers. So the Navajo Rangers are obviously a group. They're like policemen. They're patrolling the reservation in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. It spans 27,000 square miles. This specific episode follows two of them, Stanley Milford Jr. and Jonathan Redbird Dover, who, when they joined the force or when they were selected to be Navajo Rangers, had fairly regular duties, land protection, search and rescue, evacuation, stuff like that. After an increased amount of, sightings, paranormal happenings, just weird stuff going on all around the reservation being reported to these rangers, these two guys were given a pretty weird assignment. They started to investigate reports of paranormal activity all throughout the Navajo Nation. Actually, going and doing physical investigations, writing reports about this shit, filming themselves, and they had a lot of really, really intriguing stuff that they were said to have found. They also, in this episode of Unsolved Mysteries, interviewed some of the people that were living on the reservation at that time that also had some experiences. I think the craziest thing I heard on there was a lady claiming that there was a Bigfoot that one night just repeatedly kept coming to the door of her trailer, knocking, banging on the door, trying to open it. Her and her kids being in their living room, just frozen, staring at the door. Finally, she gets up enough courage to go open it. She swings it open, and there it is, standing on her porch. staring at her. It's a giant Bigfoot, the classic description, coarse,
Yeah.
thick hair from head to toe. And it immediately turns around, runs off her porch, and runs out into, I don't remember if she lived kind of by like a little forest area or something, but it was kind
Yeah.
of a remote little trailer out there. Um, they ended up finding some, footprints
Yeah,
around
those
the back.
footprint pictures I was showing them from the article looked amazing.
Yeah, around the back of her trailer. That I don't remember if there were like scratches or something on
There were
the.
were scratches. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there were scratches on the side of the house. So it was obviously it's with a lot of these sightings and a lot of these claims and stuff like that. It it's you have to kind of take it for what it is, right? It's we don't really know. Like only
Yeah.
that lady and that family was there. Um,
No corroborating
no,
witnesses
yeah,
as usual.
right. But it just made it made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. It was very, very interesting. And another kind of theme of this was, you know, to tie the two rangers back into it. As the Bigfoot sightings increased in regularity, so did the UFO sightings, which
That was the thing that threw my brain. That's the thing that is the coolest part of this is that it's both UFOs and Bigfoot.
which is what we fucking talked about on the original episode, Red.
Yes,
Is
indeed.
Bigfoot an alien? We have the shirt. I wore the
Yes,
shirt
we do.
like 2 days ago.
Yes, we do. It's right there in the upper left-hand corner.
Um, but so I don't know. What do you think about this? Like, it seems like I don't know. Some shit is just going down on this
Yeah.
on this reservation, and I don't more so than different places in America. Could it just be the landscape that they live in, or I don't know, dude. But I think this is like a must check out episode on Netflix.
I kind of do too, and I feel like it's the perfect kind of catalyst for us to get back to discussing maybe Bigfoot again in another episode. Mainly number one because it ties both of these things together that we've talked about in the past. It ties UFOs to aliens, UFOs, sorry, to Bigfoot. But I think that the thing that's most interesting and the thing that we always come back to is where's the physical evidence, right? Where's we said it back in the original episode, where's the bones and poop? And at the very least, these guys are making an effort to try to collect samples. I mean, still don't have the things that we're talking about having. We've got lots of plaster casts of footprints, lots of scratch marks from an animal of some kind, lots of things that feel like Bigfoot, but who knows if they actually are Bigfoot. Uh, where's the hair? Where's the blood? Where's the something? I feel like at the very least, this episode opens up some new questions for us to maybe answer as a group or to discuss as a group. If nothing else, you should definitely check out this episode of Unsolved Mysteries for some entertainment. And by the way, that's one of the kind of features we're going to be doing for these episodes of this particular show is we will always have links in the description of these videos on YouTube. So that you can click directly over and watch these things yourself or read the articles yourselves whenever possible. And of course, our stuff is always going to be in our Discord, which you can find the link for that down below as well.
So, it's not just this one lady with this said experience with Bigfoot. There said over hundreds of Bigfoot
lots
sightings.
of people.
Like, so this just wasn't one isolated incident, which makes me think. I mean, you bring up some valid points. Is if we have over 100 reported sightings of this thing, but all we have is pictures of footprints. The picture of the side of the house that was fucked up.
Yeah.
Which it's just not enough evidence, but there's enough people saying something about it where you're like, okay, like there has to be something there. Like what's the disconnect? Like where, I don't know. I don't know that all I can say at this point is I don't know. because it's wild, dude. Like if it's not Bigfoot, then what is it? Like what kind of animal is
Yeah.
it? Is it some big black bear, or is
Hmm.
it some I I don't know, because
Yeah.
they even talked about another creature that one of the rangers himself reportedly saw with his own two eyes while driving, called a skinwalker, which is
Yes.
like a shapeshifter.
That's a
Kind
very
of,
Native American thing.
yeah. That this guy he's driving his car down this lonely road in the desert, middle of the night by himself. Got not really thinking anything. Looks over, sees something out of the corner of his eye, and looks over, and it's one of these skinwalker things just fucking running and keeping up with his car, like keeping fucking pace. So he's like 10 and
Okay.
2. Yeah. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Okay.
Um, and eventually I think the thing runs off, and then but it was like as fast as a car can shapeshift and is terrifying looking. So triple
Yeah.
threat. I don't know, Red, but there was another story of a girl that had a UFO, similar thing, driving late at night, lonely desert road, big old UFO ball of light right 20 feet away from her car on the left, just keeping pace with her. Follows her for a couple miles, then just shoots up into the air.
Yeah.
So
I love those kind of stories.
whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's the Skinwalker thing, whether it's ghosts, aliens, there is a shitload of cool stuff for. I mean, just to listen to, especially if you're into, the paranormal side, if you're into some conspiracy theories and stuff like that. If you think Bigfoot's real, check out this episode of Unsolved Mysteries. Definitely made me kind of revisit our initial discussion on Bigfoot. Um, and I think I instantly messaged you guys like, "Wow, we gotta,
Yep.
we gotta do something with this." But that's kind of our unsolved mysteries discussion. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say on that before we go into your topic you brought in?
Well, I was going to say the fact that we're talking about scientific evidence, bones and poop, and all of those things again, it's the perfect segue to the topic that I brought, which is exactly about bones and poop, and not necessarily not those things specifically, but blood, blood and sweat and things like that. I recently saw this article, and again, this was one of the catalysts for doing this. Is we do see stuff, and as we follow more and more stuff, we run into more and more things that relate to the podcast. And this article kind of grabbed me. The setup is what was Dracula really like? 550-year-old clue to the life of Vlad the Impaler emerges. And the basic setup here is that there's a couple that call themselves historical chemists, if you will. They have extracted molecules from different things, from different people, to try to analyze and learn more about these people's lives that have passed. And the article goes on to say that they've worked on manuscripts by writers and found traces. Here it says, we found traces of morphine and kidney pathology proteins in the pages of the manuscript, proving he wrote it while under the influence of drugs that he used to relieve acute pain in his kidneys. They then did this with Anton Chekhov. They did George Orwell. These people have a pretty good track record of jumping into historical figures and finding out something that maybe we didn't know. And the upshot, unfortunately, of this article is that they haven't finished their research yet. This is sort of like the press release announcement that, hey, we're doing this, and well, we're just going to have to see what happens. Maybe we come up with nothing. But apparently there's a letter that exists from Vlad the Impaler. And that letter he wrote to the people of this town and in 1475 saying, I'm going to take up residence in your town. Now, that said, that's how the article ends, unfortunately. It says we've got this letter. It says we're going to analyze it. And hopefully that tells us something about about Vlad the Impaler, our sort of archetype for who Dracula was if there was a real life person and all that sort of thing. I don't think anybody has put too much credence into the fact that this man was actually a vampire, but you never know. You never know. Somewhere around here. Oh, it's right here. I gotta grab it.
There's no way you just looked around into all that shit and found it immediately.
Yes, I know. That's why I can't. That's what I'm telling you. I'm out of order. I know where everything is. So this is.
I gotta climb over 20 boxes to get in the door.
This is
I know
soil.
where everything is.
This is actual soil. I don't know if you can see that. This is actual soil from Transylvania, from where Dracula is supposedly from.
Mm-hmm.
This is from a website called Mini Museum. We'll link to that too for the fuck of it.
So that's just some dirt they threw in that and charged you a bunch of fucking money for.
Yep, that's about it. It's a bunch of dirt from wherever Dracula's supposed to be from. I also have a piece of the crate dragon from Star Wars. You know, there's a little tiny piece of it in there somewhere. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no Vlad the Impaler or vampire blood in a bottle. So don't go looking for that. That's not happening. But I did find the idea of doing this with historical figures fascinating because there are a bunch of historical figures that we've talked about in the past. We've talked about John Wilkes Booth. We've talked about, at the very least, we've talked about a very big Nazi leader. We've talked about some soccer players. We've talked about real people in many instances. And I think it's fascinating that they're able to go back and using some very minute amount of evidence, find out, something about these people in terms of their health. The fact that they could figure out that this writer was using pain medication and that affected his writing because he'd been using it throughout the writing process. I think that's fascinating. There's lots of conjecture about these things in history, but we never know if it's the real deal. Wouldn't you like to know? But does this warrant us revisiting Dracula and vampires? I don't know.
I mean, it's interesting. I wish it wasn't like, oh, they just started it. Like, I wish this was an article telling us what they found. Yes. I guess my question is, so, like, where did they extract this from? So they get, like, permission from the government to, like, his bones or something? Or
well, it comes from the paper, from the letter.
Really?
Like through his sweat, let's see if it says here in the art. Yeah, no, it can come from anything because it's not necessarily about the blood. Your proteins that you can secrete apparently also can carry these things. It says here, our object is to find the biochemical traces left from the time when the historical object was created. So it's never about remains. It's always about a specific thing. Or when it was used by a historical figure. And then they say when historical biomolecules are found, we analyze them. That is to determine the molecular composition and age of the historical molecules. And we determine proteins and metabolites. These molecules are more stable than DNA and provide more information about environmental conditions, health, lifestyle, nutrition, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a little Jurassic Parky. Right, a little bit, just a tiny bit, and at the same time, it's real forward-thinking genetic analysis and all that. I would assume these people are maybe looked at as a little bit of outsiders in their field for their way of thinking, but at the same time, I think it's also genius.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought like, oh my god, this guy probably sweated on this piece of paper. We better keep this. And
yeah,
fucking, I that's just I have a pea brain, so I would have never thought.
I wouldn't have thought to do that.
I wouldn't have thought. I guess I wouldn't even like. I wouldn't even have like known that was possible. Like a drop of sweat would have lasted that long.
Like imagine resting your hand on a piece of paper while you write with a pencil, and this part of your hand is just laying on the paper.
Mm-hmm. Fucking wild, dude. But I don't know if this I don't know if we need to revisit Dracula, but this is definitely an interesting piece. That maybe when the full article comes out and like the full, it's not really an investigation
Well, I think
experiment,
it's a story. Yeah, it's a story to follow.
Yeah, follow it along. Maybe if there's something that we see is interesting comes out of it, we come back to it. But I think it's a cool thing to kind of bring up and discuss now. But I don't know if we need to go do another full episode about it. But something I wouldn't have thought of in a million years.
Yeah, I found it fascinating. And when it came up I think it came up in my Google News for you, some recommended articles. And I thought, oh, I got to take a look at that. That sounds at least interesting. And let's face it, we don't, we do a lot of these things that we talk about. They're not that interesting.
No.
They're fun to talk about, but they're not that interesting. And this was genuinely interesting to me. So,
For sure.
Well, that said, what do you think if you're listening to this? Another one of the other main reasons is to hopefully generate some more interactivity from you, our listeners. We do have a voicemail line, and you don't actually ever have to talk to either one of us. You can just call that number, 917-979-6071. It's right there on the screen. Just call and leave a message. You won't talk to anybody. It goes automatically to voicemail, and tell us what you think. Tell us what you think about these two topics. Do you think it's worthy of a full episode? Did you see that Unsolved Mysteries? Did it convince you, or was it just as much entertainment as Harry and the Hendersons?
Shout out.
Well, I think these are going to be fun, Fudge. I'm looking forward to these.
No, I'm really looking forward to it. We got to remember at the end of this episode, we're going to be recording here. We got to put our names on the wheel, spin it, see who's doing the second version of this. I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, this was awesome. I think this was a great way to kick this off. I'm looking forward to the next time we're able to do this and kind of what else we're going to revisit, what new shit we're going to bring to the table. But yeah, if you're out there listening, as always, we appreciate it. Like I said, we did drop the dead weight on this one, so this is just cream of the crop right here, ladies and gentlemen.
Streamlined, baby.
Streamlined. We get it. You get it. As always, we appreciate you watching. We appreciate you listening. Like Red said, call the voicemail. Find us everywhere on social media at Edging the Truth. A follow, a share, a retweet, a like goes a long way for us. We're still, we're a year in. We're still trying to build this. We're trying to figure out, what do we really have with this? And we're hoping this little weekly edition will kind of help us figure that out. edgingthetruth.com for all of your podcast needs, full episodes. It's got our merch. It's got bios about us, contact, anything you need. Go to edgingthetruth.com. I'm Andy.
I'm Dave.
He's Big Dave. He's Red Raspus. And this has been 2 Steps from the Truth, episode 1, presented by Edging the Truth.
Visit edgingthetruth.com for more information and links to all our social media and podcast directories.